spitting image, Jack said. Daphne took the wand from her sister. Okay, who do you want to be? Sabrina was stumped. She realized she had to choose wisely. She needed to be inconspicuous at the ball, someone small and unnoticeable, and someone who could be very, very sneaky. Okay, I was thinking. I know, Mama Bear. The little girl interrupted, and before Sabrina could stop her, she had performed like circles and was cracking her big sister on the head. Sabrina felt the transformation immediately, as if her body was being inflated. Her clothes disappeared and were replaced with a bright pink and white polka-dotted dress that ended well above her knee. He looked down at her humongous arms and groaned as hair exploded from every pore. Fangs burst from the top of her mouth, and razor-sharp claws sprang from her fingernails and toenails. She could feel them scratching at the insides of the ruby slippers, which had expanded to fit her new 6'26" feet. When the transformation was complete, Daphne giggled. You did that on purpose, Sabrina growled. You're so cute, Daphne cried as she threw her metal arms around her sister and gave her a big hug. I could just eat you. Well, no one's going to see the two of you coming, Jack moaned, though it was obvious he found the whole thing funny. Girls, you realize there's a timer with this magic. When the clock strikes 9 o'clock, we're going to change back. Do you understand? Mira lectured. 9 o'clock? I thought it was midnight. Cinderella had until midnight, Sabrina argued. Cinderella was 17 years old. You are 11. There's no way your grandmother will approve of you staying out until the wee hours of the morning. We're trying to save her life, Sabrina pointed out. Still, children should not be allowed out that late. Plus, your magic wears off at 9, Mira said. That doesn't give us much time. It's 7 o'clock right now, Jack said, eyeing his wristwatch. Mira took the wand from Daphne and put it back into the pot. He led the group out of the room, closed the door, and, when Sabrina couldn't manage, locked it with Granny's keys. One last thing, Jack said. You don't happen to have any walkie-talkies in this place, do you? Chapter 9. When the group stepped back through the mirror, Sabrina suddenly felt her massive size. Being a 7-foot-tall, 1,200-pound grizzly bear made the regular-sized room feel much smaller. I'll never get through the doorway, Sabrina worried. You won't have to, Jack said as he stepped through the reflection. Just click those heels together and you'll go anywhere you want. But before you do, you'll need these. Jack held 3 walkie-talkies. He opened Sabrina's handbag and stuffed one side, then slid open a panel in Daphne's tin frame and popped in the other. He kept the third for himself. These will help you keep in touch with me. You're not going in with us? Sabrina asked. Are you kidding? Jack cried. I'm on Ferryport Landing's most wanted list by now. Even if I disguise myself, Charming is sure to have security that can sniff me out. I can't take the chance. I'm going to stand outside the mansion and direct you. When you find the map of Charming's next target, we'll go save your grandmother and Candace. Okay, Sabrina said, looking down at the slippers on her huge furry feet. I just clicked them together, she asked, feeling ridiculous. 3 times, Daphne cheerfully reminded her. There's no place like Charming's mansion? Jack nodded in agreement. Daphne put her hand on Sabrina's arm and held on tightly. Jack reached over and did the same. There's no place like Charming's mansion. There's no place like Charming's mansion. There's no place like Charming's mansion. The last thing Sabrina saw was Elvis trotting into the room. In his mouth he had a piece of fabric Granny claimed was from a giant's pants, as well as a big scrap of Jack's pants. He spit them out on the floor and whined for attention, but suddenly there was a pop and the lights went out. Sabrina's ears filled with a squeaky sound, like someone was slowly releasing the air from a balloon, and when the lights came back on, the 3 of them were standing in front of Charming's estate. It was the biggest house Sabrina had ever seen, with several stories and marble columns like the ones on the White House framing a golden front door. A coat of arms depicting a lion fighting a snake decorated the front of the house. The lawn was immaculately trimmed and bordered by stone paths and clipped shrubbery. A statue of Prince Charming, surrounded by admiring woodland animals, rose out of a fountain in the middle of the lawn. Several hulking attendants with green skin and oversized muscles, poppy rabbits, waited by the circular driveway, opening car doors, taking keys, and driving the car away. A car pulled up in front of the house, and a blonde woman in a blue bonnet and puffy dress got out. She reached into the back seat for a long white staff with a curled end. Before the attendant could close the door for her, half a dozen lambs tumbled out and eagerly followed the woman inside. "Little Bo Peep!" Daphne cried. "Can you believe it?" "Okay, girls, I'm going to stay out here and let you know if the cops show up. Keep your radios on and try to stay inconspicuous," Jack said. "I'm a grizzly bear in a dress," Sabrina muttered. "Charming's office is on the second floor," Jack continued. "I'd mingle with the guests for a while, walk the crowd, and find your way up there without attracting attention." "Oh, is it that easy?" Sabrina said. "Once you find the map, pop yourselves back down here and we'll go find your giant." So Jack finished. He gave them a thumbs-up sign and disappeared into some nearby trees. "He makes it sound so simple," Sabrina grumbled to Daphne. A line had formed as guests waited to be announced, so the girls walked to the back of it. In front of them were a large man and his wife, having some kind of argument. "Isn't there a line for the rich people?" the woman groaned. "Maybe if we had gotten here earlier we'd be inside already," the man grunted. His voice was slurred and Sabrina thought he might be drunk. "I wanted to look nice for the ball," the woman said defensively. "You wanted to look nice for the prince," he muttered. "Are you going to hop on that again?" the woman sighed. She turned and noticed Sabrina and Daphne. Her cheeks flushed red and she forced a sheepish smile to her face. Even in her embarrassment, the woman was radiant. Her beautiful amber hair cascaded in curls down her neck, and her bright green eyes sparkled in the light, competing for brilliance with her pearly white smile. "Good evening," she said politely. Her husband turned to see who she was speaking to, and the agony of his face was revealed. His features were pushed flat, giving him a cat-like appearance, accentuated by the mane of hair that framed his face. Long fangs crept out of his mouth and hung down nearly to his chin, but his most horrible feature was his eyes, bright yellow slits that blinked at them fiercely. Sabrina knew exactly who they were. Beauty and the Beast. "Good evening," the Beast grunted. "Nice to see you, Wisdom. How on earth did you and Mama Bear come to be acquainted?" The girls weren't prepared for questions and stood dumbfounded. "You're such a gossip," Pretty scolded. "What Papa Bear doesn't know won't hurt him." Several more guests joined the line. Sabrina turned around to see a small white rabbit in a vest clutching an old-fashioned chain watch in his back paw. He looked at the time and stuffed the watch back into his vest pocket. "For once we are not late," the white rabbit sighed with relief. His companions were three mice wearing black sunglasses and carrying canes. "Always the worrywart," one of the mice said as he tapped his cane against the ground. "I told you we would make it," the second added. "Someday I'd like to smash that watch of yours. All that worrying about time is going to give you a heart attack," the third mouse concluded. "I believe in being punctual," the white rabbit said defensively. "Have you heard the news?" the second mouse squeaked to the crowd. "No, I want to tell. I heard it first," the first mouse cried. "Brother Grimm has been carried off by a giant." The folks in line gasped in surprise and turned their attention to the little mouse. "Are you sure?" the beast asked. "Maybe you'd prefer an eyewitness," the first mouse cried. "I may be blind, but my hearing is just fine." The beast rolled his eyes. "A giant? That's impossible!" Beauty exclaimed. "I don't believe in either, but it's true," the white rabbit replied. "The giant has been stomping around all over town, scaring the humans to death. The three are working overtime, showering town in forgetful dust. We're prepared to dig deep, my friends. The damage is extensive, and forgetful dust costs a pretty penny. You all know Charming is going to ask us to foot the bill. Sabrina hung on every word. If he's dead, we might actually be able to leave Fairport Landing, Lucy cried, unable to hide her excitement. Has anyone tried? The barrier still intact, said the third mouse, almost stumbling over a pebble as he stepped forward the moving line. We tried it this morning. Well, I wouldn't get your hopes up about Rhoda meeting an untimely demise, the White Rabbit said. I'm sure Kent will save her. He always does. Oh, that's not going to be a problem this time, the third mouse chirped. The giant carried him away too. 2 barns with one very big stone, the second mouse sang with glee. So it's just a matter of time, the beast said. Maybe not, the second mouse said. I hear they found the granddaughters. Everyone groaned. I thought they had died, Beauty said. No, just missing. Apparently, whoever carried off their parents didn't get them, the White Rabbit said. I'm sorry, Sabrina interrupted, but you said the girl's parents had been carried away? The family thinks they abandoned them, but I've heard whispers that Henry and his wife were kidnapped, the beast answered. Sabrina and Daphne shared a stunned look. It's not all bad news, the false mouse said. Indeed? Beauty asked. I hear they're already trying to rescue their grandmother. Can you believe it? Said the white rabbit. 2 kids taking on a giant. The whole family will be pushing up daisies by morning. That's the dullest thing I've ever heard, and when it comes to the Grammys, that's saying something, the beast said. The crowd laughed. Mama Bea, you must be so excited, Beauty said, taking Sabrina's heavy paws into her delicate hands. Soon you'll be reunited with your family. Are they still hiding out in that Romanian zoo? Yes, that will be wonderful, Sabrina muttered, doing her best not to swat Beauty across the yard and then stop the rest of them into paste. The talk of her parents had caught her attention. Do you know who kidnapped the parents? Said Sabrina. Who cares? The White Rabbit replied. You people are horrible, a voice said from behind them. Sabrina turned around and saw a beautiful, dark-skinned woman with dazzling green eyes. She wore a diamond tiara and a beautiful evening gown. She looked at the group in front of her with disgust. Briar Rose, Beauty said nervously. I think you may have stepped into the middle of a conversation and misheard something. I heard all I need to hear, Briar Rose said. The crowd shifted uncomfortably and turned away from her accusing stare while Sabrina's mind filled with possibilities. Could it be true? Their parents hadn't abandoned them? Could someone have kidnapped them? Soon, Sabrina and Daphne were almost at the front of the line. Mr. Seven stood at the door, this time without his pointy idiot hat. He announced Beauty and the Beast, and the couple disappeared into the chattering party inside. Good evening, Mr. Seven said as he opened the door for them. He clapped his hands together and yelled, Mama Bear, escorted this evening by the Tin Woodsman, as the girls entered the room. The mansion was a spectacular display of wealth and taste. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, and a beautiful red-carpeted staircase led up to a large landing where 4 men played violins. The room was already crowded with people, animals, and monsters of all shapes and sizes, ever afters as far as the eye could see. They wandered around, talking and drinking champagne. Some laughed at jokes while others argued politics. A very ugly couple of trolls dressed in evening wear danced to the music, and several hulking waiters hurried around the room, extending trays of appetizers to guests. No one seemed to be bothered that there were ogres and winged people hobnobbing with talking animals, so Sabrina's worries that people would notice a man made of metal and a bear in a polka-dotted dress quickly dissolved. Sabrina, all of the ever actors wish we were dead, Daphne said. Sabrina looked around the room. Every fairy tale creature she had ever read about seemed to be here. Cinderella and her fairy godmother, the Mad Hatter, Mowgli and Baloo, even Geppetto was often of the